but I want to take a few minutes to orient everyone on around today's service. It's going to be a little bit different. Our service today is presented by the arts team. Artists often approach the world a little bit differently from the rest of us. So along those lines, I've decided to use a queer framework for today's service. In academia, when we queer something, we are approaching it from a perspective that is outside of what is considered hegemonic or expected. We contest socially constructed structures. This act is political, and it is usually related to the LGBTQ experience of living almost entirely outside of established identity norms. So let me break this down a little bit and explain what I mean when I say socially constructed structures. Governments and organizations like Unitarian Universalists are socially constructed structures, but so are their rules, policies, and practices. Our normal order of service is a socially constructed structure. So is the amount of time that we spend in each meeting. For example, a few weeks ago when Dom was speaking to us, I had 3 of our members reach out to me and ask me to tell him to stop because he was going long. Don't worry, I'm not going to call anybody out as who you were. I deliberately chose to not tell him to stop, particularly because where he's from and how and who he is, going as long as he did was normal for his culture. Established structures are usually imposed on marginalized folks. For example, in our own congregation, we have a heteronormative gender dyad. We break up in groups of the men's group and the women's group. But these structures are literally forced on people who are outside of that experience. So most often, in order for queer folks, people of color, or folks who are disabled to create space for themselves, they have to contest established structures and move outside of them, or in other words, break all the rules. So artists tend to do that as well. Today, we are queering the service by contesting and breaking the established order of our service. Hopefully that allows all of us to have a slightly different way of experiencing and engaging in our topic with each other. This type of interruption isn't new though. All religions have had a long relationship with heresy. The philosopher Spinoza, who actually gave us our Bill of Rights here in the United States, was excommunicated for his heresy by the rabbis in Amsterdam, who was afraid that his heresy would endanger them politically. Spinoza once stated that heresy is God's antidote to stagnancy. So it is with that sentiment that I hope you will receive this disruption as a gift. At the end of the service, I'll be available to talk a bit more about queer theory if anyone's interested. At this point, you might be saying, okay, Steve, but what does queer theory have to do with fabric and textiles and golden threads? I want to share, I asked everybody to bring an object, fabric that's important to you. And I wanted to share with you my most treasured, probably object that I have in the whole world. This is a blanket that my grandmother made for me. She crocheted it for me and she gave it to me 3 weeks before she died. I never came out to my grandmother. I never told her I was gay. This blanket represents my grandmother's statement to me of, I know you, I see who you are, and you are loved. So it is that love that's going to be surrounding me today as we talk, and I hope as we share our collective experience. So with that said, because we're queering, we're going to actually start with announcements. So are there any announcements today?
Pam, you're up.
This is the regular announcements, right? Because this is an announcement for the book club. I sent out 11 different books for people that to vote on, and I've only heard back from a few people. And so far, you know, I want to hear back. You were supposed to let me know by today, so I hope I'll give you to the end of today then to let me know, so then I can tell people what the chosen book is for this time and the next time. I know one of the choices was the Book of Joy by the Dalai Lama, and who is the oops, I don't have my list right in front of me. Anyway, Desmond Tutu or something like that. Anyway, they said it'd be a really great start for the new year, but starting out with some joy for the new year. So it might be a good book to start with, but there are 11 other choices and great choices by all sorts of things. But anyway, I need to hear back from anyone. So please either text me or email me today if possible, and then I'll be able to tell you what the book choice is going to be. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. Robbie.
Yes, thank you. So I had announced last week that we are going to do a Christmas Eve afternoon service at 5, something, you know, that's focused on readings and music and greetings. But we're only going to do that if other people want to help me do it. So anybody who would like to be interested, who would like to help in any way, contact me in the next couple of days. That would be great. And same thing for a winter solstice.
Who's on this? I can talk. They can hear you.
The other is true for winter solstice. We know that there's that some of us for whom that's a really important time. And again, we'd love to do something for it, but we've got to have folks who want to help plan it. So I'm here. Let me know.
Thanks so much, Robbie. All right, looking for hands. Jessica, I see you.
Hi, everybody. I'm announcing the women's group. It's an inclusive group, so all women identified in the fellowship are welcome. It's at 6:30 on the second Wednesday, which is this Wednesday. And there's a Zoom link. If you'd like to be on the, if you'd like to receive the link, you can shoot me an email at jessamama@yahoo, 1S1A, JESAMAMA at Yahoo. And the topic is stillness, which is good for this time of year. So hope to see you, and let me know if you'd like to join.
Thanks so much, Jessica. All right, looking for a hand. Catherine, I see you.
I just wanted to let the congregation know that we have started a Unitarian Instagram account. So if you or your loved ones are on Instagram, please find Vashon Unitarian Fellowship and enjoy the journey.
Exciting. Thanks, Catherine. Beth, I see you.
This is a little bit of an odd announcement, but it seems like the right place. I just ran into Alexandra Drissel, who was our RE teacher, and she's pregnant, and she's due in January. And she's touched a lot of families and a lot of children over the years with us. And she was so filled with joy. And she says, tell everybody, tell everybody. So that's my announcement.
Exciting. Thanks, Beth. Any other hands? Oh, Ted, I see you.
Yeah, the men's group will meet on 6:30 on Thursday night, the day after the women's group. And if you want to get a link for it, just contact Bob Powell at Toolbert, TOOLBERT @gmail.com.
Thanks so much, Ted. Any other hands? Alrighty, Stephen. Looks like we have all our announcements.
Great, so we'll begin. Actually, because we're querying the service, we're going to start by extinguishing our candle. And so we're going to pass that over to Tammy to actually extinguish our chalice.
Before the first massive explosion of light, the universe began in silence and darkness. Imbued with glorious potential, it stretched on forever, silent and cold, frozen. During December in the Northern Hemisphere, our days grow shorter and shorter, light dims, silence magnifies, nature sleeps and waits. This is how magic life, and even love in the universe always begins silent, alone, often cold. Conception, potential, creativity, and life itself always begins first in darkness. Yet this seemingly immutable darkness holds the keys to secrets and mysteries begging to be revealed. It is only by truly understanding the darkness that we can begin to appreciate the glorious light. So it is with respect and hope that I extinguish this chalice so that we may be reminded to celebrate the darkness in us and around us as we come together to appreciate our great internal creative fires.
Thanks, Tammy. So I'm going to share my screen here in just a second. Give me 2 seconds. Is that working?
I think you need to press a button to make it final.
Okay, hang on just a second. How about that? Is that working? Okay, thanks, Nathan. So our topic today, as I mentioned, is golden threads. And this is our relationship to textiles, fabrics, and each other. You know, in the invitation to this service, we talked about, in the email, we said, you know, look down, look at what you're sitting on. Most of us are encapsulated in fabric. It's everywhere. We have a relatively cavalier attitude today in relation to the fabric and our cloth, but that cavalier attitude would have been an anathema to our ancestors. Textiles have allowed humans the ability to live in and travel through a plethora of regions that might otherwise have been proved too cold or inhospitable. Rich silks and warm woolen cloths were bartered through trade, such as the Silk Road. And that facilitated a lot of cultural exchanges of ideas, craft techniques, the dexterous finger-plied work of producing thread and cloth was a daily experience for countless of individuals. In fact, in a lot of ways, we even get, much of our language that we use in our everyday English, less so than what it used to be, but definitely the history of our language comes from words that are related to textiles and the making of textiles. For example, the distaff side, we don't use that all that much anymore, but it relates to the maternal side of the family. The word spinster in some ways has a negative connotation, but in the 1500s, single women who spun could actually make more money than men who were weavers. They can make more money per day. And so if you were a spinster originally, you actually had quite a bit of economic and probably social power as well. We know the word heirloom, which is something precious that's inherited. This word used to relate literally to looms that were inherited. We've heard of tenterhooks, spunny yarn, chintzy. If something's chintzy, it's often cheap, and it refers to flimsy cotton material. Many of us know tow-headed. Tow is another name for golden flax. The word textiles come from the Latin word tessere, which means to weave. Fabric and fabrica come from the Latin fabrica, to skillfully produce. Many of us weave a coherent argument that's related to the act of weaving. Additionally, a lot of our myths and especially ideas related to goddesses come from our history with textiles. Sleeping Beauty is one of the most commonly known. She pricks her finger, she's cursed to prick her finger on the spinning wheel and die. but she doesn't. Rumpelstiltskin, I think Julie's going to talk a little bit more about that. Grimm have the tale of the three spinning women. In Homer's Odyssey, Penelope is Odysseus's wife, and Odysseus is gone for many, many years, and Penelope has suitors that she holds off, she holds at bay, because she's weaving a shroud for Odysseus, a death shroud for Odysseus's father. She's often seen as the pinnacle of fidelity because she used that as a ploy to keep suitors away, all 108 of them. Athena is one of my favorites. The myth is Athena and Arachne, and it's an origin of spiders, the original spinners. And Athena was actually jealous of Arachne's spinning ability, and so she changed her and transformed her into a spider. In the Norse tradition, Frigg is often seen as a spinner. We get the word Friday from Frigg. Mama Aklo is the Incan, as well as Tate, original weavers goddesses who taught humans how to spin. Alien astronaut conspiracy theorists often attribute aliens to giving humans the ability to weave and spin. Amaterasu is the Japanese goddess equivalent. So Mama Aklo, Tate, and Amaterasu all gifted, all female women goddesses who gifted spinning and weaving to humanity. Many of us today have really close associations and experience community through textiles and fabric and weaving. And I've asked Julie to talk a little bit about her experience and her understanding of this tradition. So Julie.
Can everybody hear me? Okay. I have some notes here, but I probably won't need them. So to start with, I wanted to share my favorite fabric right now. It came off the needles last night. And this is something that's going to go to my mom. Stephen, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Okay, good. So this blanket is a 10-stitch blanket, and I dyed some of the yarns, I spun all of it, and then I knitted it. And so this represents the past 6 months of my life. And it's going to go to my mom after I weave in the ends, block it, and add an edging. For those of you who don't know, I spin yarn, I make yarn. And what drew me to it was just the idea of, I liked being practical and using my hands, but the transformation that happens from a white fiber to a dyed, fluffy fiber that's all neat and arranged and like a cloud, using a spindle or a spinning wheel, I can produce yarn, little balls of yarn that can then magically transform into a fabric. Many people don't realize that civilization itself depends on fiber and it's even deeper than cloth. Cloth is important, but the very light that we use when we have a candle, it takes something that's almost brutal, flame, fire, that consumes. And as soon as you put a wick in it, the thread that carries up the fuel from the tallow or the wax or the oil, as soon as you start using a wick, we've civilized our fire. Thread and yarns.
Uh-oh, Julie, we're losing you. Thank you, COVID, for giving us technical difficulties. Bear with us, folks.
Self.
Hey, Julie, we lost you for about a minute there.
Okay, I can go back. What was the last thing you heard?
I've
wick.
got folk. Yeah,
The
about the
wick.
wick. Thank
The
you.
wick
Okay.
and the candle.
So as soon as we have a wick, we brew fire and we civilize. It becomes something we can transport safely. It can illuminate a very small area. And so the fabric, even just the thread, just the when you take multiple threads and weave them together, you can make a rope or a twine or a wick. Just that is the foundation of a civilized society. We gain control over fire. And that same wick binds us together, that same thread. You can create a bundle. You can create thatched roofs just with the idea of twisting things together. We can bind poles together to create supports. That then became the fabric after that. And the fabric, aside from covering us, can you imagine making enough fine?
Oh no, we lost you again.
Hemp rope to weave into a heard?
A fine thread into a
sail.
Yeah, okay.
And imagine making a sail out of 100 miles rough hemp yarn. And so being able to like point A to point B was the very next thing after clothing. And then there's differences between a weave and a knot, and all the science that would go into discovering how strong a rope you could make, for how big a boat you could put together, for how much wind you could capture. So there's quite a science to it as well. And where every culture developed its own style of yarn and rope. And the transformation that happens when people begin to share information and the joy of this craft. Every culture had its own kind. And when I travel the world now, or I go on the internet, there are pages where people gather. There are circles that people would do together because some of these things were so large that you needed that group of people to work on it. And when it became a business, we had the political struggles of the people that grew the cotton, that were enslaved, of the workers that worked in inhuman conditions in these large factories making the cloth. I had the honor and privilege of going to New Lanark in Scotland this past couple years. And it's a fiber mill. They make yarn there. And they originally wove there. And the people that started it began it with humane conditions for all their workers. They began to educate the kids, and the kids went to school that they provided on site until they were old enough to safely begin working. They created days that had humane lengths. They provided their workers with decent places to live and ensured that the markets from which they had to shop were fairly run. And they started the world's first cooperative businesses, which turned into cooperative banking, which turned into the co-ops that we now have today that help us financially band together and unite the world. All of this was made possible because of the people in the fabric industry working with the constraints of that. So it's an amazing thing how a wick not only brings fiber, but it ultimately has changed the way we can think of economy and work, fairness, and what is a civilized society.
Thanks, Julie. Appreciate it. So now we're going to break out for a little bit into rooms. And I believe that Nathan is going to send everybody a PDF. If you'd like to download it, that's great. This is a PDF guide for the breakout rooms. You don't have to download it. It's not required, but we're going to ask everybody to engage in breakout rooms. Here, stories about textile production and creation are intimately related to our collective experience of how we understand the world and our connection to each other. Julie just shared some of those. We're going to ask you, what memories do you have about stories involving fabric or textiles? And that might be the object that you brought today. And how have these stories or memories shaped your understanding of your community and the way you relate to others? So each of our breakout rooms today is going to take about 10 minutes. We're going to invite everybody to share with each other, and then we will all come back together in about 10. Okay, so I'm going to open all the rooms, and most of you will have to click to go to the rooms, or Nathan will put you there, and we'll be back in about 10. Thanks, folks. Welcome back, everyone. I'm going to share my screen here again with you, and we'll keep going. So as Julie mentioned, we also have some rather ignoble associations with textiles. Julie mentioned slavery and the cotton industry. In modern Bangladesh, about 4 million individuals are currently involved in the textile industry today. Of those 4 million individuals, only about 150,000 are unionized. So in Bangladesh, the vast majority of individuals experience some form of horrific working conditions related to the creation of textiles. Similarly, the Chinese have lots of garment sweatshops and can earn, individual in a garment sweatshop usually earns less than the equivalent of $1 a day, even in 2020. We also have a long history of our relationship to textiles with uniforms. Most of us will go into museums or open history books and see this type of ruff, which was pretty common in the 16th century, especially in Europe. What we don't think about today, it was specifically in England, what we don't think about today was the idea that the only folks who were allowed to wear a ruff were the aristocracy. So this guy who looks a little silly was a member of the aristocracy. And if you weren't a member of the aristocracy and you wore a ruff, that was considered a crime, and it was actually punishable by death, which is pretty significant. Similarly, we have other uniforms that are meant to, in some ways, terrorize or scare us. Or we have other uniforms that designate prisoner status. Back to our modern day version of uniforms that often are used to terrorize. Similarly, sometimes the uniforms that we wear signify hope, but also power at the same time. Here is, so I'm going to play a video here, and hopefully this will work. And this is a really interesting utilization of cloth and fabric as a way to promote social justice. So I'm excited about this, and we're going to have an opportunity in breakout rooms to chat about this video in just a little bit. So here we go. Hopefully this will work.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Cooper, curator of dress, fashion, and textiles at the McCord Museum in Montreal. Tartan Day comes on April 6th, so let me help you get ready. Le tartan a toujours été symbole de l'héritage écossais, mais depuis longtemps, d'autres groupes s'en servent comme symbole d'appartenance. If you like the idea of styling your own way of belonging, then the maple leaf tartan might be for you. Le tartan de la feuille d'érable est notre symbole officiel le plus obscur, mais c'est possiblement le meilleur pour le Canada d'aujourd'hui. En fait, aujourd'hui, nos symboles officiels nous rappellent ce qui nous divise et non pas ce qui nous rassemble. Take the beaver, for instance. It has become a gnawing reminder of our colonial history. Now, while we can't wipe out our checkered past with a checkered textile, we might want to think about how it's a better fit for Canada's present and future. Le tartan de la feuille d'érable évoque notre environnement, une cause qui nous tient tous à cœur. Its colors trace the life cycle of the maple leaf. It's about the land, and that's a reminder of its traditional custodians. And it's a testimonial to the success of new Canadians. Ce tartan n'a pas été créé par un gouvernement, ni un colonisateur, ni un Écossais, mais un immigrant. Il voulait que ce soit un tartan pour tous les Canadiens et il voulait qu'on le porte avec fierté. And because it's a textile, you can get your tartan on any way it suits you. It even points out how identities are plural and complex, and how that actually enhances our national fabric. So get your tartan on. I'm Cynthia Cooper at the McCord Museum in Montreal, wishing you the best tartan day ever. Hi.
So we're going to have it be your turn again. We're going to break out into rooms. And here's what we're going to do. At times, the textile industry and fabric itself has been involved in some rather ignoble activities that result in marginalizing or oppressing others. Yet our relationship with textiles also offers new opportunities for social justice pursuits. What are some other ways that we could use textiles and fabric to promote social justice initiatives like the folks at the McCord Museum's use of the Canadian tartan? So I'm going to break everybody up into rooms again. Hopefully you'll be in rooms with different people, and ask you for about another 10 minutes to continue sharing. Just a brief FYI, we're leaving the chat room open for joys and concerns today, but also feel free during the chat rooms to share your joys and concerns with each other. We'll come back to that again at the end. So we're breaking everybody out into rooms again. We'll see you in a little bit.
One of the things I was thinking about is that we're certainly
We're back, Stephen.
Welcome back. I think we've got a couple minutes for everybody else to join us, a couple seconds here, and they'll join us automatically. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Just a second here. Okay, so we're going to move on in a second to talking about the future of textiles and imagining the future of textiles and what that might be. We did a little bit of our past and then our current engagement, things that we could possibly do. We want to look at the future of our relationship with textiles. We want to give a nod to our offering. So I'm gonna share my screen here in a second. And also while I do that, Nathan's gonna put a link to our PayPal account. And we definitely wanna make sure that we don't miss the offering section. So please do that. But we're not gonna spend a whole lot of time with it. Thanks, Beth, for giving us you're putting your offering into your jar that you'll send later. I love that. Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen here and play one more brief video. This one talks about where we're headed in terms of our relationship to textile. It's a little bit scientific and a little bit dry, but I'm also kind of really excited about this idea. So the intent is to use it to spark your imagination for when we chat about the next section. So give me a second and I'll share my screen again. So textiles of the future. second here. So we're going to go one more time into our chat rooms. I'm going to share with you a screen here. This is what we're talking about this time. Hoping that you can share with each other about the changes that you've noticed in fabric and textiles in your lifetime. I'm old enough that really when I was very young, everything was natural fibers, and then came the advent of polyester, and just like that, all my clothes were polyester. So imagine together about how fabric and textiles might change even more in the future. What will our relationship with fabric and textiles be like? What will we create together? And how could we evolve together through our relationship with fabric and textiles? So I'm going to open all the rooms again, invite everybody to share. And when we're done, we'll come back and all of us will share together. I'm sure that there are lots of different stories and different learnings that we're having from each other. So we'll have time to all share that with each other. So let's go to our rooms again one more time. Welcome back, everybody. Good to see you back. So we have a few minutes left, about 8 minutes before Beth actually lights our chalice. But before that, what I wanted to do is give everyone a chance to have a little bit of back and forth all together to just revisit important stories that you learned, important takeaways. But I wanted to ask Ann Lewis first to share with us. She has a couple, so she'll start us off with that. She was going to share a couple of important things about her relationship with specific fabrics, and then we'll all share together. So Ann, take it away.
Oh, well, people in my group have already seen it, but I wanted to share a little bit about the role of some fabrics that I thought were particularly interesting that are now made and printed on the island of Zanzibar, just off the Swahili coast, Kenya and Tanzania, which was also the center of the slave trade. And this also, the history of these particular fabrics goes back as well to the slave trade, and were initially identified as the cheap fabric that that slaves could wear once they had some fabric. But they then again were sort of co-opted by by the more current people and in recent years. And it turned into a very interesting industry. These cloths that are called kanga have a distinctive shape. And that is, each of them is, they sold in 2 pairs, and each one is this way, there. Vanna White is helping me here. These have a border around the outside, they have an image in the center, and they have a saying or slogan at the bottom. So it's the saying or slogan at the bottom that makes them topical. And now they were all over East and Central Africa. And the slogan is sort of like modern t-shirts. This particularly says in Swahili, you'll notice in the middle, it has a ballot box, and there is a ballot going into the ballot box. And it says on the ballot box, our vote. And the words in Swahili around it say, the woman or women have the right and responsibility to lead. So, and then at the bottom it says general election 2005. While we're political, I'll also show briefly this very popular one, which went around and there we have. Oh, sorry. And there we have Barack Obama, who is of course the pride of Africa. And oh, sorry. My son's calling. Sorry.
He really wants to talk to you.
He really does. I don't know how to. Yeah, I'm sorry. There. He can't believe I'm declining it. This says very lovely. Love and peace has been given to us by God. Congratulations, Barack Obama. And just on a lighter note, they were also used to send a message. For example, if you wanted to send a message of how you were feeling that day, you would wear a t-shirt that said like, don't tread on me, or don't mess with me today, or whatever. But this one, oh, this one, a favorite, caught my eye, of course. This is our favorite. It has the ice cream on it. And this is when you're feeling a little flirtatious, because it says on it, your words are as sweet as ice cream. And I'll leave it with that.
Thank you, Ann. Okay, any important takeaways that somebody wants to share with us? We have about literally 5 minutes left, and then we'll have Beth close us out with lighting the chalice.
I'm going to selfishly put myself on the spotlight. I wanted to say that I loved seeing Julie's or hearing Julie's further perspective in one of the breakout groups. She talked about how DNA is essentially a thread of a natural thread because it's created under tension, and the spiral is like a replication throughout all of nature to create fabric and our own beings. I just thought that was beautiful, and wanted to make sure the group heard it before we sign off because I loved hearing that. So that's my share.
Thanks, Nathan. Anyone else?
Burl is talking. Burl, you'll have to unmute.
Oh,
You're muted again. Sorry. I'm pressing. There you go.
There you go.
there. All right. Okay. This is hand loomed, which is not so rare, but it's made out of crochet cotton. You know, just spools of crochet cotton. And this woman who made it also spun yarn off of a live Angora rabbit. The rabbit is sitting there and she's spinning yarn off of its fur. So she's a weaver from Alaska, known as the Weaver Lady.
Thanks, Burl. Anyone else want to share a takeaway, something that struck you, or that you wanted to share, an item that you have with the whole group? Ted, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things we talked about in our group is how modern fabrics are made out of synthetic and these little tiny balls that get into the water and into fish and into all kinds of sea life, and the tremendous danger that is to sea life all around our planet. But you know, these fabrics, you know, the polyesters and all those kind of things are a lot cheaper than cotton and wool. So everybody, you know, is buying the polyesters instead of the cotton and the wool, and the cotton and the wool are so much better for us to wear. And you know, there are even people who are allergic to the synthetic fibers, but I mean, that's something really, I think, to think about in terms of fabrics, is to the extent that all of us can, to stay away from polyester and synthetic fabrics, and you know, to buy the cotton and the wool if we possibly can.
Thanks, Ted. I think we have time for one more share before Beth lights the chalice for us. Anyone?
Sheila Brown is talking. You'll have to unmute, Sheila.
Sorry. There's something called a microfiber bag, which it's not expensive. You put all your polyesters in them in the washing machine, and that collects the microfibers and prevents the microfibers from going out into the waste stream. You can get it online.
Right.
Thanks, Sheila. Perfect. Lauren, that was short, so I think we have one more share from Lauren. Thank you.
It'll be a super short thing on top of what Sheila just mentioned, in that synthetic fabrics like polyesters are actually petroleum products. So that is a major, major, major social justice, climatic justice, climate change issue. You know, that's petrochemicals right there.
Thank you, Lauren.
Yes.
I want to thank everyone for participating today, specifically Kate, Julie, and Tammy for inspiration. And Beth, if you would light our chalice and have our final opening / closing words. Oops, it blew out.
Oh. I know you are tired, but come, this is the way. In your light, I learn how to love. In your beauty, how to make poems. You dance inside my chest where no one sees you, but sometimes I do.
and that sight becomes this art. You and I have spoken all these words, but for the way we have to go, words are no preparation. I have one small drop of knowing in my soul. Let it dissolve in your ocean. A mountain keeps an echo deep inside. That's how I hold your voice. And yet, in silence, there is eloquence. Stop weaving and watch how the pattern improves. You suppose you are the trouble, but you are the cure. You suppose that you are the lock on the door, but you are the key that opens it. It's too bad that you want to be someone else. You don't see your face, your own beauty, yet no face is more beautiful than yours. Do not feel lonely. The entire universe is inside you. Stop acting so small. You are the universe in ecstatic motion. Set your life on fire. Seek those who fan your flames. With our hearts, we will touch the sky. May we burn brightly and together.
Thank you, Beth. That's the end. Thanks, folks. Nathan's gonna unmute us and we'll stop recording now.
Actually, I negotiated with Steve, and we
right.
are still doing Go Now in Peace. But the negotiation was that I have to be unmuted the whole time. So I will lead us and go now in peace. Go now in peace. Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Yay!
Much love. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you, Stephen and Nathan. Beautifully done.
Yes.
Thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Nathan.
Oh, I should unspotlight
So
myself.
nice to see everybody.
Yes.
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 Hear from everybody.
Another
Shereen,
beautiful service.
Lisa, all these people.
Mhm. Congrats on your 40th anniversary, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. And even those of us who kind of moved away a little bit, you draw us back. I see Sharon here and had a great time talking with you in the chat. So
good.
Great to see you. Mary too.
Who is talking?
Shereen.
Shereen. I don't see her yet. I have not.
I'll spotlight her.
Ah,
okay.
Here we are.
Julie and Rick in Camino Island now.
Oh, fun.
That's me.
Great to see you.
Well, in spite of the fact that some of us are not